My name is Rosemary Stevenson, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a nice snowman on a stone. I have this flat sandstone kind of stone I've got from somebody, and I'm going to fill the holes with this dry tech stuff. You see, it's pink stuff, and it's once it dries up white, so you know that it is good for you to paint on. You can see it's still a little bit pink, so I need to wait a little while longer before I can paint on it. There you go. It's now dry enough for us to paint on it, and I'm just going to get my big brush and I'm going to put a base color of white on the stone, like so. If you don't have white, it doesn't matter, just take any colour you've got. You just want to provide this dry tech kind of wall filler with a base colour of a sort. So if you're going to make a dark stone, black might work even better. There you go. Now, if you see that you have got big lines, you can always put a sponge over it after, and then you don't have those nasty lines, which always helps. There you go. Now we can dry. There you go. That's a good thing about editing. You don't have to wait with me. Anyway, we're going to use dark colors and we're going to specifically watch where the light source comes from. I'm going to work with purple and blue as my background color because I think, black is just black. So let's just have fun with some colors. So just use any colors that you like. If you like whiter colors or you just want to have a daytime scene, then just use the colors you've got. You see that on the left hand side I keep things quite bright, so lighter colors on the left hand side and darker colors on the right hand side. I do that deliberately because I'm planning a snowman that has a light in his hand, so it's going to give this glowing effect. So therefore you want to have a difference between where the light source comes from and where the darker side is. So in my case, because of the shape of the rock, I chose that the right hand side is the darker side, gives me a little bit more room, and the left hand side is where the light is. Feel free to switch it around, feel free to work with different colors if you don't have these colors, so just have fun. Again, to make it smoother, just use your sponge and sponge all those nasty lines away. There you go. I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow just on my sponge, and then using that yellow while it's still a little bit wet, it gives this very subtle glow. And this is roughly where I'm going to have that light source coming, so therefore I'm just playing about with the colors. And the sponge really works a treat. If you don't have the sponge, you can get them in the dollar store. They're not that expensive. I think $1.25 for a set of 3. If you don't have them around, but you have your kitchen sponges, works just fine. You just cut it into little bits, and there you go. I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy. But when you're there, anyways, pick up some of these, and they work a treat. So I've got this round dauber kind of things, and they make perfect snowflakes in the background. So just, use it as dry and don't fill your sponge completely. Just have them a little bit see-through and do this while the stone is a little bit wet. That gives it a very subtle background snowflakes or front. It just depends on how you want to look at them. This, I think, just feel free. Don't go overboard because you still want to have differences, but just go ahead, have some fun. And you see they're still a little bit see-through, so they're not like bright white dots. If you don't have these, another thing that works well is a cotton bud, the ones that you use for in your ear, and use them here and there as well. Gives them a different kind of diameter as well. But like I said, also these you can find in dollar store. Right, now you can make these round sponges and you can make a snowman, and depending on how many tiers you want. If you want a snowman with 3 or 2, I'm choosing 3. I'm just using a brush and I'm just drawing a circle. And the circle doesn't need to be perfect because, to be honest, whoever made a perfect snowman? So it needs to be semi-round. I mean, it needs to be a little bit flatter on the bottom. And then the second layer, just a little bit smaller than the first one. You see mine is almost as big as the first one. So I'm making the bottom one a little bit bigger. And then a nice round head for the top. And you see the fairly big dots, as you see, and they overlap. So they're not perfect dots. I mean, sometimes when you see people making mistakes with a snowman, it's like the dots are just perfectly aligned. And you know that snow doesn't really stick on the snow on the bottom one quite like that. So just have fun. Defining where the top and the bottom part of the balls come together just by adding a little line of blue in the circle. And now we're going to focus very much on where shadows fall in this tutorial. So in my case, because I've got the light source on the left hand side, that's where the light comes from. So we're using those bright colors on the left hand side, and feel free to add a splash of color. So yellow in my case, and no, it's not yellow that the doggy makes. It's just light reflecting from the yellow is reflecting the light on the snowman. So that's why the snowman is yellow, and not because the doggy lifted his leg on top of the snowman. It could be otherwise. So anyway, so focus today is to use shadows very well, and therefore our lighter part is on the left hand side and the dark part of the snowman is on the right hand side. So follow that throughout your planning of your stones. So if you're planning to make a light source coming from the front, then you can do that as well. So you need to think about these things before you start just painting. I don't know, it's just a stone, but since you're doing it anyway, let's just think of what we're doing and have some fun and educate yourself as well at the same time. So again, here I'm using on the right hand side the purple, and I'm gonna just shut up for a little while and play some music and just follow my lead, and I'll come back to you in a bit. So there you go. Our snowman more or less is set on the background. You see it's really a nice blend. So I'm making a little bit of a grey dot over here just where the eyes placements are. If your snowman is looking frontwards, just take into account that of course the eyes need to be different. So I'm just like lightly placing them, and now I'm going in with black and just dotting right in the middle to see where those lights, where those eyes go. So when you are going in with black from the get-go, then it's very difficult if you don't like the placement to go over it again, because then you need a couple of layers. So just do subtle things first, and then you can see if you're happy with it, then place them. Now I'm going to make those little buttons for the snowman. So 2 on the top here, and then another 3 here in the bottom part. So there you go. He's a nice snowman. Again, you know, if you have mistakes or you want to have a little bit more yellow, just feel free to make it so. It's very important just to work your way around and to say, okay, where do the shadows fall? Where do the snowman, where's the darkest places of the snowman versus the light ones? A bigger brush, of course, is easier to blend. If the smaller the brush, the more harder it is to blend things. I mean, you do need a small brush for little details, but a flat, dry brush is ideal for blending. So you see, always when I'm painting, I use lots of colors. I'm not afraid to use colors. So even pure white is not really white. So I never tend to use pure white color until the very, very end of my painting. So just for some highlights here and there. So keep that as well. So if you have your pumpkin orange, I'm sure you have still from Halloween, just let's set up this nose. Just starting with a little dot, and then I'm making the bottom part, and I'm then taking it all together. Make your nose just as big as you want. Maybe your snowman doesn't have a nose, or maybe he's got a button nose. Just have fun. Do whatever you like. No, mine has got a typical carrot nose. Trying to make the top one lighter and the bottom part somewhat darker to give that reality effect again. Take some red, just a little bit, just for the top and the bottom. Or not the top, the tip and the bottom. I'm giving him some blushy cheeks. The other one is just on the other side of the nose, so you don't see that very well. And take your very fine brush, just give him a nice smile. There you go, a nice snowman. Just filling these stones in, a bit too harsh colour, so just black, so just used a little bit of that grey that I had. I'm making the arm a little bit more clear by adding a little bit shadow underneath it, and then a little bit white on top of the arm. There you go. So there we are again. You've listened to some nice Christmas music. Back to work. So the only thing that's left really to do is to put that light on that branch. So I'm just starting by creating like a hoop, and I'm going to make like a little like light thing. So it's like almost a square, but it's going a little bit up on the sides. So just remember your hooks and things. So little rectangle. See, that's the little thing here. Also here. So that's the bottom plate. So I'm just going to fill that in with some colour. Feel free, you can just make it like, keep it glass looking. And so we have the thing, like the cage, but now we need to put the light inside there. So I'm just starting by making a little bit of a square, and I'm going over the bottom part, you see, so you don't see really. So that's just like the candle holder inside. And here I'm just doing something. I just making an outline of a candle. I'm making a white line in the middle, and I'm going a bit red around it. So I'm just playing about with it, just when I'm happy with it. That looks enough like a candle to me. Bit of yellow in there. And just to make it more real is I'm going to fill that little glass inside. I'm going to fill that whole candle with a little bit more yellow. And all around, I'm just filling and flooding. Let me just take a bigger brush. Take a bit of yellow and just do the surrounding a little bit more brighter. So that's the light source. So it can go brighter from there. There you go. You see what I mean? So, and the more that you go out, the lighter it becomes, or the less yellow. But feel free just to play about. Maybe a little bit more here on his cheeks and a little bit more on the snowman itself. You cannot stand too close, so therefore he's holding that stick. I'm making the hat a little bit like more lighter because it was quite dark. Also using it a little bit yellow for the top. And of course, on the right hand side, it needs to be darker again. I'm messed up here. I've got like a big line. But the good thing about acrylics, you can just go over it. There you go, like that. Like so. And we're gonna create a pom-pom, so I'm just using that cotton bud and make like a semicircle on top of this hat. And of course it needs to be blended into the hat, otherwise it just looks a bit silly. So it needs to be more rounded, otherwise it looks like it's just part of the hat, so it needs to be on top. So therefore I'm making it a bit rounder. A bit more yellow in the front and a bit more red to blend that together. Now let's create some of these little fingals. What do you call these things? No idea. These little wires that come down from a scarf. No idea what they're called. Rufflings? Don't know. Help me out here. Okay. Let's paint something else. Now you can create anything. You can make a Christmas tree, but you should have done that before you put the snowman on. But maybe there's a little doggy in the front. But we could make a little bird on the little branch. That might be nice, just to have a little bird friend that is also enjoying the heat of the little light. So, oh, let's first do the snow. Yes, so blend a little bit white with yellow And what we're going to do is we're going to create the snowflakes that are just a little bit different. So just the here and there, just take that yellow blended with white, so it's like a very babyish yellow, and just make dots. Just use a small brush or a toothpick or any, maybe you've got a dotting tools, just create some dots here and there randomly. You know, they don't want to be not too much, but just enough for it to make a difference. And because we have different ones in the background, you know, that what we started with, you know, with the little, was it cotton bud and the sponge thing. So now we can just create the smaller flakes. And just like I said, just feel free to, if you mess up, you just use your finger. I use my finger all the time. There you go. So that's the yellow. And now we take some white, and in some of the little yellow dots, we're going to put a little white dot in the middle. And not to cover the whole thing, just a little highlight to it. And like I said, not all of them, just pick a couple, and then you can use your same ones. You see, then it gives dimension to your painting. A little twinkle in the eye. Of course, we could never forget that. So that's what we did here. A little bit more shadow. Ideally, you want to take a bigger brush. You know, if you're not, you can use your finger like I just did, but use a bigger brush. It was silly for a wee brush to use that for a bigger surfaces. Just use the little ones for little fine details. All there is to it. Right, let's paint that bird. So I'm starting off with a little circle, little dot, like that. And then I'm making a tail attached to that, just a little one. A hat on top of that, just follows that same curvature of the little bird, like that. Now you can create any kind of bird you want. I've got no idea, I was just doing something here. So just create a bird that you like. It doesn't need to be a pretty bird, as long as the dimensions somehow are correct with the rest of the painting. And you're all good to go. So you give him a little orange breast. I quite like that. Making the hat a little bit more darker. See, it's this cute little bird. There you go. Nothing to it. A bit of red, some bits. You don't see the feet anyway, so don't worry about the feet. It's such a tiny thing. Just a little bit of highlights on the branches here and there. Yep, and that's us almost done. I mean, you could argue you want to add something here. I'm going to add my initials. There you go, RS. So if you find this one, then you're a lucky one. Well, that was my tutorial for a snowman. If you enjoyed this, check out my YouTube channel from Gemstones. There will be plenty more on it. And I hope to see you next time on a new tutorial of Gemstones. A Merry Christmas to you and see you soon. Bye bye.